Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. Sitting down with me right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable is author Dawn Gilbreath. Dawn, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Dawn, you have a new book out. It's titled Twirling Hair with Jesus. Can you tell me what you've written about there?
This book was out of necessity to help a child with the hard struggle of losing someone by death. And so I wrote a book to try to help children go through the grieving process, but not just the grieving process, go through all the things of finding out the information that they had lost someone, going to, say, a funeral home for the first time, going to the graveside, actually seeing a body in a casket, which is a hard place for a child, it's a hard place for an adult. So I wrote this book trying to take hope, the hope of Jesus Christ, and insert that into a storyline where this one child, her name is Gracie, she walks through this whole process, and in the end, she has the hope of Christ. So it was just a book wrote out of necessity because we had lost a child, and my son was 10 years old.
I'm sorry.
And he passed away tragically from a simple bike wreck. He was in the front yard, and he passed away from a laceration of the liver. And being that happened, we needed something to help. And you don't realize you need it until you do, and then there is nothing. So this book was wrote or published. It's this year's 10 years. We've lost our son, and it came out this year on the 10-year mark. But it was really out of necessity that there needed to be a book to help a child go through something that they're not going to have any other means to go through it until it happens. You just don't visit the funeral home. You just don't go through those steps unless you have the necessity to go there.
Prior to this, have you written a lot or been published?
I haven't. This was my first work of publication, so it was my first whole process, going through all the steps. I had never wrote a book. I had never been an author before. I love to write. I've wrote ever since I was a little girl, just have journals and all kinds of things. And didn't honestly know I was even an author until it was needed. And so I was like, I need to write that. I need to make steps in preparation to do that because it's just a hard place is death, So here I am.
So being your first one, was this a long process for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
The writing actually came pretty quickly. It came from a conversation I had with my daughter. She was maybe 5 at the time that we had this conversation, and it was just a special conversation. And so writing the actual book did not take very long, but the actual figuring out, how to get this thing published, I had no clue. You can Google a million different ways to publish, but it just didn't hit just right until, I'm going to say 2023. And that's when I contacted Christian Faith Publishing, and then the ball started rolling. And of course, a children's book needs to be illustrated. And I had several people that were going to help me illustrate, and it just didn't work out. And then finally, with the Christian Faith Publishing, they helped me. They got all the drawings up, and I loved everything that they had presented. So we went forward with what they had presented. So here I am. 2 years later of the real process of writing or trying to get it published. It's 2 years in the making.
So looking ahead, do you see yourself maybe writing and publishing more?
I do. I have another book. Because of losing our 10-year-old son, we have a whole testimony of what God did through that terrible time. It's an amazing testimony. So we plan to write, me and my husband together, because of his death. His name was Blade. We're going to write a book called Because of Blade. The tagline or whatever is, because of Blade, our lives are changed. And because of Blade, losing him the way we did, we have gotten to minister all over the country. My husband actually surrendered to preach because of his death, and our life is just a totally different, it looks different now.
Well, this book is definitely needed out there. Again, it's titled Twirling Hair with Jesus. It's written by Dawn Gilbreath and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Dawn, thank you so much again for coming on the show. It was really nice talking with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me tonight.
This book is a guide designed to inspire spiritual growth. It's co-written by Calvin Adams and Rochelle Bowser. It's titled Prayers That Move the Heart of God. Calvin is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we get to talk all about it. Calvin, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Oh, you're welcome.
Calvin, can you tell me what you've written about in Prayers That Move the Heart of God?
It's Christian-based, and we wrote it to inspire people, to see God on this earth. In Hebrews 13 and 14, it says the earth is temporary. So we're just trying to get people to look at it in a more eternal facet, that, this earth is temporary, but, that heaven and hell is real. And so we're trying to get people this, perspective that this is not the only life on this side. So we're trying to basically remove the scales from people's eyes so they can see into the, to eternity, that eternity is real.
As far as the reading audience that you had in mind for this, Calvin, who would connect with this the most?
Anybody, who's wounded and needs to be healed. That's what we wrote this book about, like to resuscitate the souls of people, their minds and wills and emotions, that God loves them. And, when they think they're alone, they're not alone. And so we're targeting anybody.
So when it comes to the inspiration, where'd you get the idea to write this?
Basically, it was like 2 a.m, like over a year ago, and I just had an encounter with God, and he began to speak to me like through the Spirit, and he was telling me that he wants me to write a book, and then he gave me the name, Prayers That Move the Heart of God, and it sounded kind of like, common, and I thought maybe somebody had already used that, so I thought it was just my flesh. But when they actually looked it up on a world, wide basis, that book never existed, so I knew it was God, and that was his confirmation. And then he began to speak to me like day by day, and then until the book was fulfilled and finished.
So what does your writing background look like, Calvin? Have you ever done anything like this before, or is this all kind of a new thing for you?
I've always been a writer, like poems, and people would always gave me compliments all my life, and it's a gift to write. But formally writing a book, no, this is our first book.
So being your first one, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing process and everything?
Somewhat, but once you're focused and, if you dot your I's and cross your T's, and do what the publishers say, it's not really a long process.
So once you had your manuscript ready, you started working with Christian Faith Publishing. What would you say was the most challenging part of the publishing process for you?
Getting the fonts, the grammar and punctuation, and just correcting all the mistakes, and basically the editing of the book. I felt like that was the longest process. And then the photograph that we decided, my wife and I decided for the front cover, I think the editing portion took the longest.
Man, you had a lot of time and hard work into this. So once that first copy came in, Calvin, you were holding it in your hands. What was that moment like for you?
We were excited because, like I said, this was our first book. And God's he's also been putting things in my spirits for, another book, but he hasn't said anything yet. But we were very excited because we know this book is going to, resuscitate the souls of people and be a blessing, and because God's involved in it. So we know it's going to be a success.
And so now that you're a published author, your work's out there for the world, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
Just finishing the book, and that has come to fruition. Because we wanted to get not just nationally attention, but international attention. So we're just excited to see how people respond to it positively. And we just believe that by faith. And that's what we look forward to. And that's what inspires us to keep going. Be patient.
So I've talked with a lot of authors here over the years, and I've noticed how many of them also love to read. Calvin, would you call yourself an avid reader?
Oh, yeah, I love knowledge and learning new things, and even learning new words. I'm always learning new words and, building up my vocabulary. And so, of course, that helped when I was writing the book. When you have like a large vocabulary, it helps with the writing and it makes it easier. So, yeah, I am an advocate reader. I love reading and just to gain knowledge,
Well, it sounds like this book is going to be a big blessing to so many readers. Again, it's titled Prayers That Move the Heart of God. It's written by Calvin Adams and Rochelle Bowser and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Calvin, it was really nice talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
God bless you.
I'm looking at a book that's a historical romance set on Iowa's northwest frontier. It's the new book by Patricia Bollmann titled The Gift of Love, Dickinson County Trilogy, Book 1. Patricia is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We'll be talking all about it. Patricia, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Patricia, can you tell me all about The Gift of Love and what readers can expect here?
Well, it is a Christian historical romance. I got interested in the subject when I found out about that Iowa had Great Lakes, which I did not know. And this was about in the early 2000s, and I got interested in the area. And I found out that there was an Indian raid in 1857, and all the people that were there at the time were killed. And it's how the people that survived that were away moved back, and many other people moved in because it was a great time of immigration. And they started a new county, and I found a book that was written by the first county clerk that told all about this. It was called A History of Dickinson County, Iowa, together with the account of the Spirit Lake Massacre. It was just such an interesting thing that I got enthralled with it, and I did a lot of research and found other old books, and it just developed into a book over a period of years.
What kinds of readers, Patricia, do you think would be into this the most?
Probably adult Christian women.
So prior to this, do you have a lot of experience writing and publishing, or is this all kind of a new thing for you?
Well, my sister remembers that I've been writing stories since I was a little kid, and I would read them to her. She said I filled reams of paper. I don't really remember that too much, but I have been writing all of my life. Also in the early 2000s, I became a freelance editor and proofreader, and so I've been doing that ever since. I'm still doing it. And then I just pursue my own writing in my free time.
And so once you sat down and you got started on The Gift of Love, was this a long process overall for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yes, it was a long process to write the book because it was my first attempt. I took a long time and made a very detailed outline because I wove my fictional characters in with the characters that really lived in that county and wove my plot around that and kind of my characters developed along with the county. And so to me, it was extremely interesting and fun to do.
So once you had your manuscript ready and you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
I had to go through the book several times, and that sometimes was quite tedious, but it was worth it. And I learned how to be a better editor as well.
There's nothing like getting that finished product. So once The Gift of Love was a real thing, you're holding the first copy in your hands, Patricia, what was that moment like for you?
Well, I was pretty excited and happy.
And now that you're published, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Well, I think the most rewarding thing is going to be when I start getting some positive feedback from readers.
So this is book 1 in the trilogy. Do you have the rest planned out? Are you working on them?
Book 2 is already written and almost ready to submit to the publisher, and I have the rough draft of Book 3 written.
Well, it's something that can happen to so many of us authors from time to time, and that's writer's block. Patricia, did you ever have to deal with things like that?
Yes, I did have writer's block. One time I remember it lasted several months, and I was stuck and I couldn't think of how to continue, and I finally received inspiration and finished it. That was with the first book. And I got a little better with the second book. And the third book, I didn't have nearly as much trouble. You kind of you get in the groove and you get used to it.
Well, so many people who are listening to us right now are authors who are just starting out. Patricia, do you maybe have some advice that you could toss out there for them?
I would say find something that you are extremely interested in and then do research and make an outline. The outline for me was key. And once I had that detailed outline, then I just fleshed in my scenes, and it was easier that way rather than just sitting down and starting to write, not really knowing where I was going to end up.
Well, this book does sound fascinating. Again, it's titled The Gift of Love, Dickinson County Trilogy, Book 1. It's written by Patricia Bollmann and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Patricia, thank you again for coming on the show. It was really nice to talk with you tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Sitting down with me right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable is author TERRELL Lee Barrett. TERRELL, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
TERRELL, you have a new book out. It's titled The Story of the Little Ant and the Big Bucket. Can you tell me all about what you've written here?
The story of the little ant and the big bucket is a unique story. It has poetry in it. It's all about unity and bringing people together. It's a nice, positive, motivational story.
And what kinds of readers did you have in mind for it?
I would say it's more like a universal, but obviously I kind of direct my writing towards youth members.
And so what was that spark, TERRELL? What made you decide to sit down and write this?
It really came it was a collective whole. It really started with the conversation with my daughter, shout out to her, Anya. And then my son, Tayshawn, he got involved in it. And yeah, it just one day I was just sitting man, do you remember that idea that you had in mind? Now's the time to do it. And yeah, I sat down and wrote it.
So when it comes to your writing background, what does that look like? Are you new to this?
Yeah, I'm currently just getting started, but I do have many other books already written. I just started learning or getting involved in my creative thought and understanding the power of writing and stuff like that.
So once you got started on this, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yeah, we're still on this journey now, and I'm learning as the new author that it is a long process, but just finding the beauty in the process itself and understanding that it is a journey, it's not a destination. So, by accomplishing the goals that I try to set out to accomplish, I understand that there's always more to be obtained.
And so once you had your manuscript ready and started working with your publisher, Newman Springs, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
Just not fully understanding the process, and not only just getting the book published or listed, but then also just the illustration, that was kind of a process. And then my audiobook was an even longer process. But, just through it all, it's just understanding that it was going to be a long process. I didn't think that it was going to be this long.
And I could only imagine what was going through your head whenever the first copy came in and it was finally a real thing for you. You were holding this book in your hands for the first time, TERRELL. What was that like for you?
It was kind of mind-blowing. I really then understood the power of manifestation, understanding that my thoughts that I had inside of my head literally reproduced themselves into a physical reality and seeing it for the first time.
And so now you're published, your work is out there for the whole world. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
The most rewarding aspect, I would say, just the message that I have, and then my readers, whenever they do read and give me the feedback, it just motivates me to keep going and that I am doing something positive and I am trying to make change, not only in my community, but worldwide.
And you say you've been writing more, so is it more along the lines of this book, or are you exploring other things?
I'm definitely exploring other things, but I'm still within the same lines as far as touching the youth members, understanding that everything comes with a message. It's all going to be motivational and inspirational. And, I'm looking for a nice little flow in as far as with animals and then being able to relate on a realistic level.
I've noticed talking with so many authors here over the years is how many of them also love to read. TERRELL, would you call yourself an avid reader?
Oh, for sure. I enjoy reading all sorts of books, mainly spiritual, motivational. I would read autobiographies or even biographies about different people's stories in their life and stuff.
Well, this sounds like a great book. Again, it's titled The Story of the Little Ant and the Big Bucket. It's written by TERRELL Lee Barrett, and published by Newman Springs Publishing. Find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. TERRELL, thank you again for coming on the show and telling me all about your work. It was really great to talk with you.
Thank you. I appreciate everything.
Author Barbara L. Bruso brings readers a heartwarming and faith-filled children's book. It's her new book titled A Young Girl's Best Friend. Barbara is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Barbara, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here with me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Barbara, can you tell me what you've written about in A Young Girl's Best Friend?
A lot of the story has to do with my life way back when. I just have a heart for young kids getting to know their best friend, Jesus. And I was privileged to be able to teach in a Christian day school for 20 years. I see the effect it has on children, and I know what effect it had on me. And I just want to encourage more younger children to enjoy a friendship with Jesus.
So prior to this, have you written a lot or been published?
I've been published in a prayer book. I do a lot of writing, but a lot of it I just enjoy writing. I haven't really pushed much of anything, but this one was very special to me.
So once you sat down and got to work on A Young Girl's Best Friend, Barbara, was this a long process overall for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
I don't think it was terribly long. I would say a year. I don't think that's terribly long.
And once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
At first, I had a difficult time with the illustrations because I'm old. What I remembered as illustrations way back when were not what's happening today. But I have gotten so in love with what I see, and I'm very happy with what was done. It just took me a while to get to that place.
There's nothing like seeing that finished product, Barbara. So once you held the first copy of this in your hands, what was that moment like for you?
I guess I don't think that much about what it is for me as I'm looking forward to what it will be for children.
And so now your work is out there. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
Praying that children will get this book and have it read to them or read it themselves, whatever they are able to do. And maybe perhaps they already have a relationship with Jesus and can agree with what's in there, or maybe they'll find their way to one. That will be the most rewarding aspect.
So as you look ahead, do you think you'll be writing and publishing more, maybe?
I've started a second book. This is going to take a lot longer. I'm aiming more for the age group I taught, which was 10-year-olds and up. As I've been doing research on it, I find I have to do more research. And I've changed the title and a whole bunch of stuff. So, yeah, this is going to be a longer process.
Well, so many of our listeners right now are authors who are just starting out. Barbara, do you maybe have some advice that you could offer to them?
Just believe in what you're writing. It means the world to me that it's actually down and available to other people. I just enjoy that aspect of it.
It's obvious your relationship with the Lord is something that is very inspirational to you. Barbara, who or what else in your life is really inspirational to you, especially when it comes to things like this?
There are several people. My dad was a Lutheran pastor. I grew up in the parsonage, and I got to see lots of different things, perhaps that other people would not see. And I was encouraged by a lot of the goodness that I saw and received. The other thing is I had a marvelous born-again experience. It was rather amazing as I've talked to other people about their experiences. I had been reading a book on love that night before I went to bed, and it was 4 a.m. when I woke up, and I heard angels singing, bells ringing, and there was a warm light in the bedroom. It was totally incredible, something that I have never forgotten, and I can still visualize everything yet today. And it was probably about 30 or 40 years ago.
So it sounds like the writing really went smoothly for you.
It did. It went smoothly. This next one is a little more challenging, and I think that's great.
This book sounds like it's going to be a blessing to families and children. Again, it's titled A Young Girl's Best Friend. It's written by Barbara L. Bruso and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Barbara, it's been really nice talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for being on the show with me.
All righty, thank you.
The audiobook edition of the book by Brandon Penrod titled Dark Tales, Volume 1. Well, it's out now, and Brandon is here with me at the show, and we're going to talk all about it. Brandon, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Brandon, can you tell me what readers and audiobook listeners are in store for whenever they get into Dark Tales Volume 1?
Yeah, it's a great collection of 5 short stories. One of them is about a demon masking as someone's friend. Another one is about a serial killer. Another one is a dark romantic story about a serial killer falling in love with a woman that's very weird and eccentric in her own way. Fate is about a student who has an abusive father and is taught to think a certain way, but his repressed memories and his conscience gets the best of him. And finally, Blissful Revenge is a story about a man who goes on a mission to avenge his wife who's murdered.
Brandon, what kinds of readers do you think that this would connect with the most?
I feel like this would be great for young adults. I feel that young adults enjoy the genre of horror a lot, and I feel like the book deals with many adulterated themes, so it's not too childish or corny, and I think they'll enjoy it.
So what was the inspiration behind this, Brandon? What gave you these ideas?
For most of the stories, it was really just my imagination. 2 of the stories stand out. Blissful Revenge was kind of inspired. I see a lot of action movies. I see a lot of video games, about I'm pretty sure everyone's seen them, where, the guy loses a loved one and he goes on a path of revenge and he trains and dedicates his whole life to that. And the other story called Soon, that one was actually inspired a little bit about my brother one day. He told me he's going to be home soon, and he wasn't. 30 minutes passed, and I was starting to worry about him, and thankfully everything was okay with him. It kind of just gave me the idea of maybe what a serial killer might do just to bring false hope to people.
So prior to this, have you written a lot or been published?
I am published in one book. It's an anthology. It's titled Page Publishing Anthology Volume 8. And that one is, it's not short stories. That one is a poetry collection. So it's me and about 10 other authors, about 5 poems each. And I've been writing since high school.
So once you got started on writing these stories for Dark Tales Volume 1, Brandon, was this a long process overall, the writing and publishing and all that?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't realize how long it actually takes to publish a book. I'll say from it started, the publishing process when I signed was about September of 2023, and the book did actually not come out until April of 2024. So it was a long process, a lot of editing, a lot of book cover ideas, a lot of stuff goes into it than people think.
Whenever you started that publishing process, Brandon, what would you say was the most challenging part of it for you?
I would say not knowing the outcome. A lot of people would like to think that, you get a book out there and it's just going to, bam, it's going to explode and become famous. But the truth is that you don't know if it's going to be a big hit. You don't know if it's going to be, something that a lot of people are not really interested in. So it's kind of a gamble, and I think that's challenging. If you write, I think you have to do it because you like it and not worry too much about the outcome, because sometimes it just takes time.
There's nothing like seeing that finished product. Whenever you're finally holding this in your hands for the first time, Brandon, what was that moment like for you?
I was extremely proud. It was very surreal. I thought about publishing for a long time, but to actually have a physical copy in my hands, it was a great moment. I was very proud. My family was very proud. It was a dream come true.
So this is Volume 1. I assume Volume 2 is going to follow soon.
Yeah, hopefully within the next year or 2, Volume 2 will be out. I've been working on some new stuff, but not enough yet to have a full book again, but hopefully it'll come out soon.
Well, again, this book is Dark Tales Volume 1. It's written by Brandon Penrod and published by the Audiobook Network. So head over to places where you normally pick up your audiobooks and you'll be able to find it, like Audible, iTunes, or Amazon. Brandon, it was great talking with you tonight and learning all about Dark Tales. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
This book is a tale of faith, family, and unexpected romance. It's written by M.D. Lacey and is titled From the Air Force to France with Love. M.D. Lacey is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to talk all about the book. M.D., thank you so much for joining me tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me all about From the Air Force to France with Love? What can readers expect here?
Oh, they can expect some humor. You're going to see some love and some friendship and growth spiritually. And you get to see the world in a different way and through a military mindset.
What sorts of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
I believe people who are passionate about life, who want to live life, people who want to learn different things, because you're going to learn more about the main character and their different points of view. So people who are adventurous. So not just one group of people, but I think it's going to touch on a lot of different people.
So how does your background, your experiences play into this book? I sense there's a lot to it.
Oh, it's a lot. So I've spent 26 years as an active duty officer in the Air Force. And reading books, I just didn't see a lot that came from the female point of view of a military person. So it was important to me to tell it, and person of faith that believes in God. So it's a lot that I didn't see out there. And I just wanted you to know that we have a say, even though we're like 2% of the military. And when there's authors out there, to tell it from a not so brutal side and not such a harsh side, but to see our point of view and that we're valued also.
So when it comes to your writing background, have you ever done anything like this before, or is this something new to you?
Well, I've actually been writing for 20 years, and I just wanted to wait until I retired to put my book out there so that I can actually engage with my audience and be present whenever there's something that's needed. So like I am today, I can, come and talk to you all or just be here with you all. So I'm looking forward to publishing more. So I'm excited about that.
So was this a long journey for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yes, very, very long. Because I thought, once you write your book, you're done and you just, give it to your publisher and you're out there. But it's a lot of writing back and forth. But the part that I really, really liked about it is I got a chance to do a lot of research because it is a fiction and it's interwoven with my life. I'm excited to be able to, talk to people and just to share it.
So you had your manuscript ready. You started working with Christian Faith Publishing. What was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
It was my schedule actually was the most challenging because they were pretty receptive and they were on time and giving me deadlines. So that was the most challenging is my actual real life writing, rewriting, be sure that I'm on time for them, but because they were very proactive and helpful. So that was the most challenging. Now that I have done it and gone through the whole book writing process, I'm more knowledgeable about it now. So next time I'm hoping that my schedule won't interfere as much.
Is there anything about that next one that you're like, I'm going to do this differently next time just to make it easier?
I plan to not be such a procrastinator for the next book. Because, when you have if you're not born a writer, because of course we're all writers, but our first job is not a writer, you tend to ease on other things. So now that it's my new passion, I try to have to make it focus. I have to sit down and have time where I can just focus and just write. I'm excited about it.
I could only imagine what was going through your head whenever that first copy came in and it's finally a real thing. It was in your hands. What was that like for you?
It was very exciting. I actually picked up my Yorkie. I have a Yorkie, and we just danced and danced with the book. It was very exciting. And then I called everybody I knew and told them, I got my book. I can't believe it. Very exciting.
Well, what a beautiful book. Again, it's titled From the Air Force to France with Love. It's written by M.D. Lacey and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So head over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or traditional brick-and-mortar stores. You'll be able to pick this up. MD, it was so good talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. You have a great day.
Joining me right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm delighted to be speaking with author Margaret B. George. Margaret, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You got a new book out, Margaret, titled Ultimate Risk Taker, Jesus Christ. Can you tell me all about this?
Yes, I was inspired a couple of years ago. I started thinking about our world and all the risk takers in the world, and everybody talks about being a risk taker. And it just inspired me to say, Jesus Christ was the ultimate risk taker because he gave everything. He gave up everything. He gave up comfort. He gave up so many things to be our Savior. And it just made me, that's why I wrote the title of the book to be Ultimate Risk Taker, Jesus Christ.
Margaret, what kinds of readers do you think that this would connect with the most?
Well, I would think anybody, probably young children maybe wouldn't be able to read it, but anybody, a teenager and up to 100 years old, or an older person, a middle-aged person, that's who is probably the market that it would be the person that would read it.
So when it comes to writing, publishing, and everything, do you have experience in this, or is this all kind of a new thing for you?
No, it was never wrote a book. And I told, like I said, I was inspired of definitely an inspiration from God to be able to do that. And I listened to his calling, and that's how it started. And that was a couple of years ago, and it was awesome doing it, and I really enjoyed it.
So once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing end of things for you?
Well, the publishing process was pretty smooth. I gave them my manuscript, and they reviewed it, and they had, editors go through it and make sure everything looked good. And I think it really went really smoothly, to be honest with you.
And after all the time and work that you put into this, finally that day came, your first copy came in the mail, and you're holding it in your hands for the first time, Margaret. What was that like?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was inspirational, and I was so glad that I was able to do this, and hopefully it'll touch people's hearts to find Jesus, and that's why I did it.
And so now you're officially a published author. What's the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
Well, I think, for me, it was the accomplishment of doing it and listening to the calling of, I believe God wanted me to do it. So that was inspiring to me. And also just that people will read it and find faith in Christ.
So what are the chances, would you say, that we're going to see some more books from you? Do you think you have more?
At this point, I don't, but you never know. I would have to be led to work on something else, but so far, no. I'm just thrilled that this has been printed, and hopefully people will read the book.
A lot of our listeners are authors who are just starting out in all of this as well, Margaret. Do you maybe have some advice that you could offer to them?
Well, if you're led to do it and you feel inspired to do it, even if you've never done it, I definitely was. Before this, I wasn't a published author, and you feel really led to do it, I would take advantage of that and work on it. It's a very inspiring thing to do, to write a book and then to hope to reach people out there about Jesus' love,
So it's something that happens to so many of us authors a lot of times, and it's writer's block. It can be really frustrating. Margaret, did you have to deal with things like that?
Not really. It's a small book. It's not a big book, but the inspiration came to me as I wrote it because it was written in a way that it's 7 chapters, and it talked about Jesus, the ultimate risk taker, Jesus Christ, his risk, the risk 1, and then chapter 2 is risk 2. So it went through all the different areas of, taking risk and to put yourself out there to be able to do it. And even he was, to me, the ultimate risk taker because he gave up everything for his mission.
Sounds like this book is going to be very inspiring to so many readers. Again, it's titled Ultimate Risk Taker, Jesus Christ. It's written by Margaret B. George and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, or right down the street at your local bookshop. Well, Margaret, thank you again for coming on the show. It was really wonderful talking with you.
You too, and have a wonderful evening.
I'm looking at a book that's a children's tale of celebrating faith, family, and the true meaning of Christmas. It's written by Gregory M. Norton, and it's titled A Gunner and Bit's Christmas Story. The author, Greg, is right here with me now, and we get to talk all about it. Greg, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the call.
Greg, can you tell me all about A Gunner and Bit's Christmas Story and what you've written about here?
Sure. Always been interested in reading, and therefore always hoped to maybe write something one day. And since I have quite a large family, nieces and nephews, great nieces and great nephews, the idea of writing a children's book seemed to make a lot of sense. And found some inspiration in a real Gunner and Bits, and the stories pretty much ended up writing themselves, to be honest with you.
So what kinds of readers do you think this would be best for? Younger children, older children, or pretty much everyone?
Well, I tried to walk a fine line of having it interesting for kids who are now reading something a little bit more than just a simple picture book. But I didn't want it to be too boring for parents to want to read to their kids. So I don't know if I achieved that goal, but it's something I wanted to do. So that's what I strove for.
So you've wanted to write your whole life. So what was that spark? What made you say, hey, I got to sit down and get started on this?
It was really just that urge to want to write something. I didn't think that I had a full novel in me. No, great novel of some of the other fantastic authors of the past, but I thought that I could tell a good story. I was just looking for the inspiration, and it sort of was there right in front of me. And then it was easy to come up with the story ideas. The one that you're looking at, the Christmas story, actually wasn't the first story idea I had for the characters, but it was the one that I seemed to really like the most, the one that stood out for me because I've always loved the Christmas time of year and all that brings. So that's the one I chose to lead with.
So once you got started on this, was this a long process for you overall, the writing, publishing, everything?
The writing, as you probably know from speaking with other people, I could probably still be doing it today. You're never truly satisfied with the product. You can find yourself going back to it every other day and changing something, adding something. And I just got to the point where I felt, nope, this is the story. And then I toyed with the idea of trying to get it published for a while, and then it sort of just took a back seat. But then some friends urged me to give it another try, which I did, and found some success and interest from the folks at Christian Faith Publishing. And it took from beginning to end, from the time that we came to an agreement, 8-9 months.
So once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, Greg, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
I had a vision. I kind of knew what I wanted the story to read. I pretty much knew how I wanted it to look. And I guess like most authors, I didn't want a tremendous amount of editing of the story, if any, really, to be honest with you. And I found that they were very easy to work with in that regard. They assisted with, obviously, grammar and punctuation and all that stuff, but they didn't, try to edit the story in any way. They worked with me when it came to the illustrations, which I had a strong idea of how I wanted those to look. Then it was just the process, understanding, how long it takes for certain approvals, and then once it goes to the printer and stuff like that, how long things take. But for a first time out, I learned a lot, and hopefully there's a second time, and I'll know how to handle it even better. But I think it went pretty smoothly, to be honest with you.
Again, this book is titled A Gunner and Bit's Christmas Story. It's written by Gregory M. Norton and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Greg, thank you again for coming on the show. It was really great to talk with you tonight.
Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to one and all.
The new book by Carl Fuller is titled To Catch a Cloud, and we'll be talking all about that right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Carl is right here with me. Carl, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Carl, can you tell me all about To Catch a Cloud and what readers can find here?
Sure. It's about a story of a young boy who's, outside, looking up at the clouds, seeing all kinds of different shapes and sizes and making him think of, things, pets and things at the zoo. And, he thinks to himself, how does one catch a cloud? So he kind of comes up with an idea and gets his family to take him on a journey to the mountains of North Carolina where he sets out to catch a cloud. And I think he surprises himself what he discovers when he goes on this trip.
Yeah, it sounds like it can relate to a lot of us, Carl. Did you have certain readers in mind for it?
Those who are young at heart, like nature, like the outdoors, the weather. That's kind of what I was thinking was in my mind.
So how did this all come about, Carl? Where'd you get the idea? How'd you decide to start on this?
Oh, well, actually, it was something in my mind for years. I remember as a child, playing outside, using my imagination, and I would go on family trips actually to the mountains of North Carolina, and I was like, what? Wondering if you can actually really catch a cloud. You could see them from the mountains and everything. So I've always had the story, and then once I shared it, I was kind of surprised, that somebody wanted to publish the story.
So is this all new to you, or do you have some experience in writing and publishing?
This is all new. The first time I published anything. Growing up, I was a fan of math and science, but I actually struggled with reading and writing. I remember, I think it took me 3 times to pass the state graduation writing test. It's been definitely a journey, and it was very exciting.
So was this a long journey for you overall, the writing and publishing process, everything?
It takes about a year from when you have your idea to submit it to publishers, to have them take a look, see if it's something they're interested in publishing, getting the artwork for the book, and going through the editing process. And it's been actually it's been fun. Something new, totally different from my work career.
Yeah, the artwork in this book looks great. So was that tricky for you?
It wasn't too difficult. I think Covenant Books had a really good art team. You kind of give them concepts, things that you're thinking of, and they just throw it together and present it to you. And it was a fairly, I would say, pretty easy process.
I could only imagine what you were thinking whenever that first one came in. You're holding the first copy of To Catch a Cloud in your hands, Carl. What was that moment like for you?
Oh, it was thrilling. It was, truly amazing, the project when we work on something and, you have the idea for so long to see it come to fruition. It's really, really gratifying, and I'm very thankful.
And so now it's official. You're a published author. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think for me is when you have a total stranger, come up to you who's read the book and they really tell you about the book, especially young kids, and how it's exciting for them. It's a really good feeling, and the book also kind of teaches something. There's a little science lesson in there, and to let kids understand that, to do a little teaching, that was really gratifying for me.
So was the writing process pretty easy for you, or did you hit challenges like writer's block, things like that?
For me, with the idea, I had actually kind of penned out a rough draft, you want to say. So I've done that, and I kind of use that as my guide. I've learned, use that as an outline guide to go through the process, through the editing, and kind of let it flow a little bit. Start with an idea. That's kind of how I approached it, and just went on that idea. Just let it flow out through fruition, and just keep adding to it over time. And it kind of just seems like it come all together pretty easily, I would say.
Well, it sounds like young readers and families are really going to love this book. Again, it's called To Catch a Cloud. It's written by Carl Fuller, published by Covenant Books. Pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Carl, thank you again for coming on the show. It was really great to talk with you tonight.
All right, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.